Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I think someone said at one point, because who knows what time it is where you're at. But I thank you so much for joining me. We are going to be watching Laura Trump on the Breakfast Club. She is the Republicans' national. She's a chair, the co-chair actually, of the Republican National Committee. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really know exactly what that is. However, she does explain in the video. So this video in its original timing is about 55 minutes. However, it's not going to be that long for you, but the original video will be in my description and there'll be a link there for you to check it out. So without further ado, let's start this up.
What's up? Early in the morning. The Breakfast Club. Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne Tha God. We are the Breakfast Club. Jess is on maternity leave, so Lauren LaRosa is filling in. And we got a special guest in the building. We have Lara Trump. Welcome.
Good morning.
How you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling great. How are you guys?
Blessed, black, and highly favored. Good morning.
There you go. Yeah.
Now, you're the co-chair of the Republican National Committee.
Yes.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
What is that?
Well, there's a chairman of the RNC. His name is Michael Whatley, and as co-chair, I work alongside of him, and we're basically in charge of the Republican Party at this point. And I've been in this position since March. It's been a wild ride. This is probably one of the craziest times in politics anyone can remember, and so yeah, I'm honored to do it.
Your father-in-law has a lot to do with that.
Well, actually, the RNC committee members have to vote you into this position. Now, I did get a call from him back in January one night, and he said, I think you should run for this position. And to be honest, I said, I have two young kids. My kids are 5 and 7 now. I have a lot of personal endeavors that, I have underway as well. I said, I don't know if this is the job for me right now, knowing how big this election was going to be, knowing what laid ahead of me. But he convinced me to run for it, and then the committee members at the RNC voted me into this position, and I'm honored to do it. Yeah.
And when did it switch to politics? Because it was a big, happy entertainment family, and then politics hit. And when you started hearing the politics talk, did you believe it? Did you say, no way, this cannot possibly happen? Walk us through that, because I don't think anybody ever thought that Donald Trump would make it to president. It just didn't seem like, because he wasn't a quote-unquote politician.
Yeah. Well, he was friends with everybody. I mean, I think if you look back at Donald Trump's history, he last night we were at the Al Smith dinner, and he was right there next to Chuck Schumer, and he said to Chuck Schumer, who's obviously a Democrat senator, he said, I gave Chuck his first check ever when he was running for like assemblyman or something. So yeah,
That's why Chuck was laughing so hard. Remember we asked why Chuck was laughing so hard? Chuck was laughing, boy.
I don't be liking the optics of that. Only reason I say I don't like the optics of that is because when you hear people like Chuck Schumer say things like Trump is a threat to democracy, but then you're sitting next to him yucking it up. Why would you be yucking it up with somebody who you consider a threat to democracy?
Well, you have to ask yourself that question, don't you? Maybe it's all scare tactics.
That's mainly because he's not a threat to democracy. There's Chuck Schumer was there. Those other Democrats there. There's others in the crowd that you can tell, because I watched it, and maybe I'll put up a clip. I don't know, but I watched it, and you could tell there's other people in the crowd that still believe in the whole Trump's Hitler bullshit, because everything Trump said, they sat there looking as miserable as possible. But Chuck Schumer is most definitely a Democrat, and the reason why he was able to sit there and laugh with Donald Trump is because Donald Trump's actually not what they say he is.
Maybe it's a lot of fear mongering, Charlemagne. What I can tell you is I know Donald Trump. I have known him for 16 years, and Chuck Schumer's known him a lot longer than I have. And I think he knows full well he's not a threat to democracy. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Look at what he did when he was in the White House. Like, there was never any threat to democracy when he was in the White House.
Well, there was
and
an
I would
attempted coup of the country.
Well, that you can argue that a lot of different ways. Peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard is not an attempted coup. What was a coup was when they replaced Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, who was not elected by anyone to run for president. There are 14 million people who voted for Joe Biden to be the nominee for the Democrat Party. And if you want to talk about a real threat to democracy, I would argue that.
That wasn't a
But
coup,
Laura,
though.
did anyone die when that happened, though?
Oh, no, not even that.
Well,
she was vice president. So
the only person who died was a woman who was there actually very supportive of Donald Trump on that
But
day.
that's still a life loss. I'm just saying
No, it's terrible.
the comparison is a bit.
We could go down the line
drastic.
of people dying in a lot of different circumstances, and I would argue that list could get very long for the Democrats as well. But
she was vice president. She was on the ballot. People did vote for her. The delegates did vote for her at the DNC.
But would you, as I'm going to assume a Democrat voter for a long time, unaffiliated voter,
Yes.
if you were a Democrat, maybe a Democrat here, would you guys, if you had the option to vote for someone other than Joe Biden to be the representative for you on the Democrat ticket, have chosen Kamala Harris to be that person?
Yes.
All right. So the thing is that they're all going to say yes because all of them are Democrat shills, right? They all. I don't know if they're getting paid. I don't know what the. I don't know what the benefit. Oh, actually, I kind of do understand the benefit of sucking up to those that are in power, such as the Democrats. You know, if you're willing to put your neck out there to support the Democrats, I could see where that would be beneficial because I could see the benefit in a lot of those people that do that. Um, so they're all going to say yes that they would have voted for Kamala Harris, right? But in truth, Kamala Harris, when she ran for the Democratic ticket to be the head of the Democratic ticket, she only got one vote. Oh, sorry, she got 1% of all the votes. So that means then, and that was back in 2020, right? So I don't know, was it 2020 or 20? Yeah, it was back in 2020. So the fact that she only got 1% of the vote shows that if she was to actually run for to be the head of the ticket, like she is right now, then at that point she most likely would have lost. There's a lot of other people out there currently that are Democrats that are I'm honestly saying they're a lot more uh they're just smarter than her. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. They do things a lot differently than she does. And when you see their poise and you hear their rhetoric and how they speak and just the way they present themselves is so much better than the way Kamala Harris does. So I don't think she would have came anywhere close to where she is right now.
I would have chosen Kamala Harris.
Out of really
Sure, you would have.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is interesting because it
I was
shows
a
how
person that
dumb
was
he is.
calling for Joe Biden to step down for a very long time. And I think that there's, when Joe Biden made a statement last year, he said there's about 50 of us that could beat Donald Trump. I was like, well, line them all up then. And I definitely had her one of the people.
Even right before his famous golden escalator ride, we actually all sat down as a family. And I'll never forget this because it was one of those moments where looking back, I say, gosh, he really had such good insight into what was about to happen. We all sat down as a family for dinner and he talked us through, I want to do this. This is definitely something that is real.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do this the right way, if I do what is needed and I call the people out who need to be called out and expose the things that need to be exposed, they're going to come after us. And it's not just me, it's the whole family. And I think you guys need to really appreciate that. And I need to you to understand that and make sure everybody feels good about it. And of course, we were like, well, yeah, like how bad could it be? But the foresight he had into what we've seen happen to this man, and I don't think anyone can argue if his name wasn't Donald Trump and he had never run for politics. I mean, you would never have seen any of the crazy things happen to him that have. So that was sort of where we all kind of got our intro into politics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't become part of things really until I flew down to North Carolina in August of 2016 for a rally with my father-in-law to my hometown in Wilmington. And one thing led to another, and he told me that I was going to be responsible for winning him my home state of North Carolina in the 2016 election. And as a person who had no idea what I was doing in politics, I said, I better learn pretty quickly and get to work. And so that's what I did.
One thing I like about Donald Trump that I noticed is that he has really good insight. His insight is sharp, very keen insight. And when you actually look into the things that he's done and the actions that he's taken, um, I mean, there are a lot of things that are politicized in regards to the negative that the news outlets and Democrats and Charlamagne and whoever would exploit. But there's so much positive there when you look at the things that he's done. Um, something that you'll have to look into because this video is already getting kind of long. It's 17 minutes. Well, it's not going to be 17 minutes for you, but at this present time for me, it's about 17 minutes. So I'm going to keep going.
I wonder what he learned from the first time he ran.
Hold on, Charlamagne. I just want to know, at that dinner, did y'all say, you know what? Well, let's put all our dirt on the table right now because you know they're going to be coming at you. Press.
Look at this guy. Let's put all our dirt on the table. Really? Like she's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we took everything, like all the dead bodies, everything, and we had to talk about it." Like this guy, I don't know, man. It's
is going to try anything that you guys have ever done. If you guys have stolen a Snicker bar from a store, they're going to come at that. Was that the dinner where you said, well, let's put everything on the table so we know what they're going to be attacking, or that never happened?
I'll be really honest. We really didn't have a lot to put on that table. And if you think that I'm lying, you really believe that anybody in the Trump family with the Trump last name wouldn't have had any and everything exposed by now? No, I mean, I think we naively thought, look, if you have good intentions and you do the right things and you're a good person, then, if Donald Trump became president, I think we all thought after he won in 2016, oh, well, then all the craziness will stop. Everybody will rally behind the person who's president of the United States, because we should all want our president to be successful. That is success for America. And obviously, we were very wrong about
Well,
that.
what is he? Well, two things. Well, I want to go back to one thing first. I wonder what he learned from his 2000 campaign. That
2016 campaign?
Well, he ran in 2000 too officially.
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't actually talked to him about that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean,
I just bought.
I didn't know he ran in 2000. I thought it was 2016. And that was it. But he's saying 2000. You can't really believe anything he says, really, anyway. Be honest. So I'm gonna have to look that up.
That up because you said that when you talked about the vice president's campaign in 2020, sometimes campaigns aren't successful. Joe
Yeah.
Biden ran a bunch of times before he actually
he sure
won.
did.
Trump ran before he actually won. That's why I brought that up.
Well, I don't know if he officially
2000.
ran.
In 2000,
Well, if he did, it didn't go very far from my memory. I don't know that
That's
there
my
was
point.
any official announcement as far as I know. But look, I think he felt the right time was 2016. I think he looked at what was going on, and this is a businessman, and I think a lot of what he did that was very beneficial to this country has to do with businesses, with the economy, with jobs. Those were things that were really important to him, and you hear him talk about it now. He recently was talking about tariffs and how he wants to apply tariffs to countries who are, it's really awful to see how so many jobs, factories have gone overseas. We want to see made in the USA on more. And you saw that happening when he was in the White House. You saw more people employed in this country than we've ever had employed in the history of America. You had more money in your pocket. You had inflation at 1.9%. It was a very different feeling when he was in the White House. And I think that's why you're seeing such great support for this man. You don't have to love everything he says. You don't have to love everything he posts on X or Truth Social or whatever. But you do have to be honest that your life probably felt a lot better with Donald Trump in the White House. And I think that that's one of the reasons that he's working so hard, because he knows he can do the job. He did it one time before.
Question: why are tariffs considered good business when we know that it's going to cause the cost of typical American household items to go up significantly?
Well, he explained
like a bunch
this.
of economists say that it'll cost the average American $2,600 extra a year.
I think that he explained this the other day when he was sitting down with, I believe it was Bloomberg, that, look, the reality is that it's going to force people to bring their companies back to the United States. And he really believes that.
But it's going to hurt a lot of American citizens in the process of that, because it's not like these companies are going to turn up and
I don't
change
think
over,
so.
come over back overnight.
Well, let's talk. I mean, if you want to talk about hurting American citizens, the first thing that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did, their first executive order in the White House, shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline. That was something that gave us our energy independence. It was so bad for America. That drove up gas prices. That caused inflation to continue to go sky high. It enriched our adversaries like Russia and Iran, because now they were supplying oil for the rest of the world instead of the United States. It put us in such a weakened state. So, we want to drill, baby, drill. That's what Donald Trump always says. We have so much liquid gold.
Biden has drilled more than Trump.
Underneath well, why did he shut down the Keystone XL pipeline?
I have no idea, but Biden,
Yeah.
Biden
Why
has
did he
drilled
drain
more
our
than Trump.
strategic petroleum reserves, which are actually supposed to be used for emergency situations, for war times? The things
But has Biden drilled more than Trump?
I don't believe that's true.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Where?
You can look it up.
It's on Google.
He's drilled more than Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true at all. And
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump was obviously a proponent of being energy independent and energy dominant as a country. And we are not right now. And that puts us in a very weakened state. And you would not have seen the issue in the Middle East right now. And you likely wouldn't have seen the issue with Russia and Ukraine had those countries, had Iran not had the funding and the money coming in from the oil, had Russia not had the funding and the money coming in from the oil. It's a terrible thing to see. And so, I think that you can look at a lot of things and second guess them with Donald Trump. and say, well, what about this? What about that? Think about how it felt. Think about how much more money you had in your pocket. Think about so many people were finally able to go on a vacation for the first time when he was in the White House. And those are real tangible things. And right now, life is very hard for so many people in this country. You know, I travel all over the place and I constantly am in airports and restaurants. And I constantly am approached by people who say, I cannot afford not to vote for Donald Trump. And I think they really mean that. And whether you look at our southern border, the influx of people who've come in this country, it's detrimental to so many aspects of our society. It's something that we've spent so much money on here in New York, $12 billion over 3 years. It's costing the city of New York to house illegal immigrants. And so I think whenever push comes to shove and we're looking at this election right now, there's so many people who might not love everything Donald Trump's ever said, but they certainly want to go vote for him because they want their life back. They want more money in their pocket and they want a safer community and they want peace agreements.
There's a lot of people that say that, you know.
Hold on, real quick. I do want to just note that inflation is down, though.
It's coming down.
It's like the 2.5%.
It's coming
just
down,
that the
but
prices
it's not
are still
down.
so elevated.
But wage growth has not kept up with the rise in inflation, and it's causing people to really hurt around this country. They really can't make their basic ends meet right now.
I mean, inflations are down, but the prices are up. I mean, whose fault is that? That's more so the corporations than it is government.
Prices are, say that again?
Inflation is down, but the prices are up.
Inflation is not down nearly enough. You can bring
2.5%.
You can bring inflation down significantly, and I think if we had an energy independent country, it would really help.
Is that 2.5%?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, you know, a lot of people feel that Trump is racist. And what do you say to that? You know, in 73, of course, it was when he got sued for not renting to African Americans. And 89, when he took out the ad in the paper. And I mean, even saying Obama wasn't born here and show his birth certificate. And there's numerous things. So what do you?
So when this guy talks about not renting to African Americans, majority of the um to be honest, majority of the low end communities were African American. And I don't know, I don't live in certain parts. I don't know too much about certain parts of America where it's such low end. But what I can tell you though is I've watched several documentaries on this, not just in regards to Donald Trump, but also in regards to how it was back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. And it was very difficult to rent to people of our culture. Reason being is that a lot of them weren't paying rent, they weren't getting jobs, they weren't, and a lot of times it's not even really their fault per se, only because the environment that they currently were in didn't allow them to get jobs and all these other things. So there's just a lot to it. So there was a lot of people renting that said they didn't want to rent to black people at that time. Even my uncle actually the other day was telling me that he wants to, because I'm Canadian, so he speaks about wanting to vote for Justin Trudeau, even though all the things that Justin Trudeau is currently doing. And when I heard his story of why, I mean, I kind of understand why. He's really just being supportive to Justin Trudeau's father, not Justin Trudeau himself. Justin Trudeau's father, back in the day, actually allowed um, blacks to have the ability to rent homes and all that. Because when he first came to Canada, he had a very difficult time finding a home because a lot of people weren't renting to black people. They just weren't, and I believe it's due to a lot of the rhetoric. Well, just like now, a lot of the things that come that America, a lot of things that happen in America, they creep over the border into Canada, and we get affected as well. This is why this election is not just important to Americans, but it's important to the world. And so the world should really be paying attention, which I believe they are. But when things happen in America, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away. So a lot of it affects us as well. All the media is connected, so our media and their media is very much similar. Um, so when they're talking about things like what's going on with Black people and all that in the 70s and 80s and all those things, it's very difficult um, to um, to stray away from the media when they decide to say certain things. So I believe everybody that owned a home, or all the landlords or homeowners back then that were renting to other people, they weren't giving houses to black people. And it wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't just Donald Trump that would say something like that. I believe it would be the whole group, just like everyone back in 2016 was so much against Donald Trump because of how strong and how forceful the media can be in regards to providing negative information on someone. So um, I wouldn't blame anyone for doing that back then. It was something that was going on during that time. I don't even know if he said that or not, but they can easily take an excerpt out of a person's rhetoric and say whatever. So it's something I'm gonna have to look into, but I can strongly understand why a person would say that. All right, so I just thought I would cut in and take a little bit of a deeper look at this because I wasn't 100% sure. So I went on ChatGPT and this is what I'm getting. So, yes, it was difficult for Black people to rent homes in Canada in the 1970s due to widespread racial discrimination and systematic racism. Landlords often refused to rent to Black tenants, either explicitly or subtly, by setting extra conditions, increasing prices, and claiming that units were unavailable. So, these are things that were happening it was a widespread thing, not just in the US, and it wasn't Donald Trump himself that did this. It was actually his father, which is something that they don't mention. They say Donald Trump never rented to black people, but it wasn't Donald Trump himself that went through this. It was his dad that went through this. So we're also going to take a look at that as well. But let's see what actually no, I was going to say let's see what Justin Trudeau did in order to help black people in Canada, but that's not that type of video. We'll save that for another time. But let's take a look at Donald Trump's father and see. Let's see if we can find something on that. All right, so I was able to find this article. It was in, sorry, it was done by NBC. It's called "Black Applicant Rejected for Trump Housing Speak Out." So okay, and I created super told her. Okay, so the super told her there was no apartments. You see, this is what bothers me about the Democratic Party is that they omit little key pieces of information. They say Donald Trump didn't rent to black people in the 70s, when now that you actually look at it, it wasn't really Donald Trump, it was his dad. Donald Trump was in court to represent his family on behalf of his family, but that was his dad's building. And it's funny how they have this beginning of this saying it wasn't just a gut feeling. Of course, it's not just a gut feeling. Everyone was going through that. All black people, from in America to Canada, which I just proved. So they're so misleading sometimes. You know, they say little things here or there just to make a person look bad, and then when you look into it, you realize it's a lie.
You say to that?
Well, I think that's ridiculous. I've known this man for 16 years, and you can go to each of those incidents, and there was never any proof of anything with the houses that you're talking about.
He
the
settled. He
apartment
settled out for that
complex.
though,
Yeah,
right?
they settled that. That was, and there was no admission of anything there. Central Park 5. There were so many people. You had a governor, Democrat, DA who prosecuted the guys, and they admitted to it. There were a lot of people in New York
They were
at that time.
exonerated and freed, and there was never an apology, never sorry, never
However,
a my
I will
bad.
say that you have to look at somebody and what they actually have done. And Donald Trump really was very beneficial to the Black community when he was in the White House. I will say I've never seen this man say a racist thing. I think the attacks are fairly. Why is that funny, Charlamagne?
I'm just like, it's hysterical. But I mean,
But no,
because
Charlamagne,
people act like
listen.
there's no such thing as Google, or we don't have TV, we don't
Well,
have
what is
radio.
it that you think that he said?
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
This morning, a bitter backlash after President Trump referred to Haiti and African nations as S-hole countries during a meeting on immigration Thursday.
All right, so that's the thing about Trump is that he's not going to sugarcoat anything, and I believe that's what a lot of people like about him the most. If they're not sending their best people, like that's the whole point of having a country that's supposed to be the best in the world. If you want to go to that country and you want to be there, you want to become a part of it. You want people that are going to add to the economy. You don't want people that are just going to show up and do negative things in their country if they're currently doing negative things in their own country, and then they pick them up and then send them to another country, so they can continue doing whatever it is that they're doing. Who wants that? When the whole point of having individuals from another country come into your country was to add to the economy and to provide um, extra stability to your economy. That's what it's for. It's not for to have the rapists and the killers and drug dealers and all that get out of your country. So then at that point your country becomes better. That's not how immigration works. So that's what he's talking about when he says, well, obviously you know what he's saying because he said it, the rapists and the killers, and they're sending all these people. It only makes sense when you send or when you reach out for the best people within the country, the ones that are engineers, the economists, you know, etc. Right? You want the best people in your country, not the most negative. And honestly, has anybody ever really gone to Haiti and some of those countries in Africa? Some of them are shithole countries. I mean, he probably could have worded that. He could have worded that a bit better. He could have worded that a lot better. But truthfully speaking, if you're talking to someone, like a friend or something, you'd be like, "Yo, honestly, I've been there. It's a shithole country, man. It really sucks." But he's not lying. And maybe what we should do is look into what Hillary Clinton and some of those other Democrats do in those countries in order to help make them shithole countries. What she's done to Haiti, I don't know what Haiti has done to Hillary Clinton. Okay, but what she's done to Haiti, you need to do some research on that and take a look at what she's done there, and then let us know because they are shithole countries, and that's not because anyone's helping them. No one's helping those countries. No one.
Marked by the President of the United States.
Oh, and another thing, I'm not talking about all of Africa. I'm just talking about parts of Africa, not all of it.
Acts of blatant racism.
Here's what I'll say. You know, this is a man who, as I said in the beginning, was beloved by so many people in this country. And he was friends with everybody. You go
A
back
lot
to
of celebrities.
Jesse Jackson, by the way.
Please
His
don't, please
Rainbow
don't do that. He
Coalition.
had black friends. That's not going to
No,
work
no,
out
no.
well.
He let them stay rent free in one of his buildings. The Rainbow Coalition, because he felt like at the time that was a very important thing. You can go pick apart somebody all you want. It is a traditional talking point to attack Republicans, to call them racist. But when you look at the things that he wants for this country, he wants every person to be successful. He wants Black Americans to be successful, Hispanic Americans to be successful, women to be successful. And he worked that way when he was in the White House. And whether you want to talk about actually funding in perpetuity historically Black colleges and universities, whether you want to talk about the First Step Act that allowed 30,000 nonviolent felons to be released from prison, who the 1994 crime bill actually put in prison. These are things that really have, I feel like, spoken to a lot of people, but more so than anything, the economy right now is such that I don't care who you are. It is hurting you, and it is something that he wants to fix. He wants every American to have their shot at the American dream. And, you know, I hate that that is the constant knee jerk is Donald Trump is a racist, Donald Trump is a racist. I can tell you he wants every person to be successful. He'll work for every American equally. He did that the first term when he was president, and he'll do it again.
Well, how do you
And I think if you're running a country, that's what you want. You want a person in office that really thinks about the country, about everyone, not just about one group of people or two groups of people. It's or whatever. Kamala Harris, she says she's black. She says she's Indian. I believe she's Indian, and the black part, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know her personally, but I could see just by looking at her that she does have Indian in her, right? Um, but who is she really going to be focusing on? I mean, they made her they gave her the title of border czar, and truthfully speaking, she messed that up big time. I mean, there's just other words I could use. Trust me, when it comes down to what she did to that border, there's a lot of other words, but I'll save that for another day.
you ask how do you ask Mexicans and Muslims to ignore a lot of the rhetoric, Haitians to ignore a lot of the rhetoric that he said about them that is dangerous, that has villainized them, that has demonized them?
Well, I would say anyone who's coming to this country illegally, he's very against, and every American should be very against. If you're an American citizen, Donald Trump doesn't care your religion. He doesn't care what you look like. He will work for you, and he wants to make this country safe for you. We should all want a secure southern border. A lot of the comments get misconstrued that he says about people coming here illegally. They're breaking our federal law to come here illegally. And that should be upsetting to everyone.
But when you make these broad generalizations, you do hurt the Haitian Americans that are here, the Mexican Americans that are here. They all get labeled and villainized and demonized.
Yeah, but you know what? I think people are finally seeing through that. It's very easy to clip up something like that and say, like, oh, let's push this out here. When he's referencing these things, he's talking about people who are illegally in our country. He doesn't want us to have 350 people on the terror watch list here. There's a guy who was arrested the other day, an ISIS member who was arrested the other day, who had planned a November 5th election day attack on American citizens. ISIS was eradicated under Donald Trump. We did not even talk about it anymore.
You know what I do remember is one moment we're talking about ISIS, and then all of a sudden ISIS disappeared. And during Bush's administration and during Obama's administration, that's all they spoke about was ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. And then ISIS just, once Trump got in office, it's like they just disappeared within a couple of weeks. I feel like it was crazy. It was like then all of a sudden we never heard about ISIS again until Biden was back in office. It was very strange.
He got into the White House and he talked to his top military brass and he said, okay, you guys tell me, how long is it going to take to deal with ISIS? Because ISIS was a
Okay,
big
so
threat.
she's about to
People
tell
were
us what
constantly
happened.
talking about, worried about terror attacks. And they said, sir, it's going to take us a couple years maybe. You know, we have to call the White House every time we want to have some big operation. And he said, how about this? You guys just go do whatever it is you need to do. You don't need to call me. You guys are the experts. I'm not a military expert. You take care of it and let's see what happens. 4 weeks. ISIS was gone. The fact that we're talking about ISIS back in the here in the United States of America, an ISIS member should terrify everybody. The open border has been a disaster. So yeah, he's upset about it. And yes, he says things about people coming here illegally, and rightly so. And you and I, as American citizens, should be the ones absolutely infuriated that this has been allowed to happen.
I agree with you. The border is a disaster. I feel like the border is a bipartisan issue, though, because the border has been terrible under multiple administrations.
Well, we had the lowest border crossings when Donald Trump was in the White House that we've ever had.
Yes, but I still feel like it's going to take some bipartisan legislation, to actually fix things at the border. You can't do executive orders. You can't do that. So how come they can't come to terms on that? And why did Donald Trump shoot down what they said was one of the most comprehensive bipartisan border bills that
if you actually read what was in there, there was like $60 billion for Ukraine. There were so many issues with that. It would allow 1.8 million illegal immigrants into our country.
So think about that. They gave a bill to try to fix the border, right? But yet they added in the bill, in order for you to sign this bill, we need to give $60 billion to Ukraine and let all these immigrants into the country, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine. Nobody's going to sign that. Like, and then they'll blame him and say, well, we came up with a bill that would have fixed the border, but then Donald Trump and his people shut it down. It's a tactic. It's a very smart tactic when you run media, to do that to someone, to do that to an individual. Um, regardless of what they've done, you're able to spin it to make it look like they're doing something negative, and you could pump that for the next 2 weeks on every station, every show, every like for instance, personality like Charlamagne, right? Like they just tell them, okay, these are your talkers. They have to do that because I've seen videos where there's maybe 70 different television stations, and all of them are saying the exact same thing verbatim, which shows then that someone somewhere or something radio, I don't know if it's a computer or whatever is going on, but something is providing them this information and their talking points. And I strongly believe that Charlemagne is not that much different. I mean, I think he has the ability to maybe add to certain things that he wants to say and all those other things, but he's not he's not truly saying, I believe, what's on his heart for sure. I mean, he's big enough to say a few things that's on his heart, obviously, but I do believe that he has his talking points as
A year. I mean, it was nonsense, honestly, Charlemagne. And we should all want a secure southern border. It's why Donald Trump built over 500 miles of border wall when he was in office. And I went down to the border wall and I saw it with my own eyes. I went down to Yuma, Arizona about a month ago. And to talk to the people in those communities. Look, they say now every state is a border state because of this. The people who live in Yuma, Arizona are being so negatively impacted. If you're a pregnant woman in Yuma, Arizona, they kind of say, you may not want to plan to have a baby in our hospitals here because they're so overrun taking care of people who cross the border. It's dangerous. They say a third of women are sexually assaulted. The people there told me it's probably closer to 50% who come up over the southern border. So it's terrible for them. But because of them having to take care of all the illegal migrants coming over, you can't even be assured you're going to have a place to deliver a baby in Yuma, Arizona. They say you're going to have to drive either 2 hours to San Diego or 3 hours north to Phoenix. And so having gone and seen it with my own eyes, I'll tell you the most infuriating part to me. You have this border wall that Donald Trump built, and then laying down on the ground where you have a wide open section are pieces of the border wall that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because they campaigned and said, we will not build another foot of Donald Trump's border wall. It's laying on the ground. And there are people who come right through there. They could stand it up right now if they wanted to, but they won't do it. That is very frustrating, I think, to see right now that we paid for that. It's right there ready to go. And if they're not leaving it on the ground, then they're selling it for, pennies on the dollar.
If the bipartisan border bill was so bad, like you say, how come so many Republicans were for it until Donald Trump intervened to say no?
I don't think Donald Trump intervened at all. He's not in that. I don't think that's true. But I also
What do you mean?
no. Well, ask Donald Trump yourself. He will tell
Now,
you.
that's a good question. I wonder for you, how tough is it having the last name Trump? Because you are the co-chair of the RNC.
Mhm.
You do have the last name Trump. We know you're the daughter-in-law. How hard is it for you to have to always answer questions about Donald Trump?
Well, nothing prepares you for this. I can tell you, growing up where I did, I would have never expected to have the last name Trump. I certainly would have never expected to be involved in all of this. And yeah, sometimes it's challenging, but I'll tell you, I really believe when history looks back on this man, this is a man who never needed this job. You have to think back, like we were talking about before, Donald Trump was beloved by so many. He really got involved in politics because he felt he could make a positive difference. Mm-hmm. And most people would have had that first term in office and seen how much they fought against him and said, you know what, I'm not going to do this again. But he decided to come back and do it again. They indicted him, not once but 4 times, mugshot, obviously 2 assassination attempts. And this is a man who continues fighting for this country. And I will tell you, I'm incredibly proud to be his daughter-in-law. I'm incredibly proud to have the last name Trump. Does it come with its challenges because there is a lot of negative information out there about Donald Trump? Absolutely. But I can't think of anything better that I could be doing right now than trying to fight for the future of this country. And I really believe that when people think about their life with Donald Trump in office and their life right now, they will always say, my life was better with him in office. And we should all want a great country. And that's what I want. I want it for my kids. I want it for everybody's kids and grandkids. And it's not just about right now, it's about the future of America.
You keep saying he had a lot of celebrity friends and they turned on him.
He sure did.
How does he feel about that? Because, in the 90s, the early 2000s, everybody was hanging with Donald Trump. They were mentioning him in songs and going to his parties and all these events. But they've all have turned. How does he feel about that? Do you know?
I don't think he cares at all. I think he knows what he's doing is so important right now. And to kind of finish my point, I think when history looks back on this man, he will truly go down as one of the greatest presidents this country's ever had. He put so much on the line. Look, he's lost zeros off the back of his net worth. He's the only president to donate his salary every quarter. He came out of the White House with less money than he went in. And he does it because he loves this country. And he really does want to see us successful. We are the superpower of the world. That is such a huge deal. But things are going in the wrong way in a lot of different aspects. And I think one of the scariest things to him right now is nuclear war. He talks about it all the time, that it is a real possibility right now. You have Russia, you have Iran, you have a lot of bad actors out there who are chomping at the bit. They saw the way we exited from Afghanistan. They see the weakness right now in this White House. And, you want a strong president because you want peace through strength. And that's what we
The possibility of World War III. People don't take that seriously. They don't understand how serious that is. And I think it's because it's been such a long time since um, the West has gone to war. I mean, a real war. I'm not talking about Okay, the West has gone to war in regards to going to other places and bombing their homes and blowing up their houses and destroying their infrastructure and killing a bunch of innocent people. I mean, yeah, they've gone to war and done that, but they've never gone to war where it happens in their own backyard, where countries come into their backyard and blow up their things, kill their people, kill innocent people on their side of the border. And that is a horrible thing. Nobody wants to see that, obviously, but in a war of 2024, it's inevitable to happen. Something like that is inevitable. There's nothing there's nothing anybody can do to stop another country coming into your land and bombing it and killing innocent people and doing all that stuff. Um, they have technology right now where they can scan your home from the skies on a drone to tell if somebody's in there and kill that person just by your heat signature. You know, um, the weapons now are so much more significant than everybody standing in the front lines and running and hiding in ditches and all that. It's not like that. I mean, World War III um, would be fought with nuclear power, and if there's a World War IV, I believe it would be fought with sticks because there'd be nothing left, nothing, and it wouldn't be us fighting; it'd be the cockroaches. That's all that would survive, right? So it's a serious thing when you have a leader in power, which currently now there's one there, um, and what I mean by that is that when you have a leader in power that doesn't care. I mean, truthfully, I don't think Joe Biden really cares about whether he goes to war or not. Because and he does. You obviously, due to Afghanistan, you could tell he doesn't know how to handle that type of situation either. It's a scary time, very scary.
He was the only president in 82 years not to have a new war under his leadership.
Now
We want to have
that
that back.
what you just said just now about the nuclear war is something I agree with. I feel like there is too much casual conversation about nuclear war from a lot of different world leaders, and I don't think we're discussing it enough.
Yeah.
That I agree with.
It's terrifying. And there are a lot of people out there right now who aren't even thinking about this. But imagine the United States gets into World War III, and we indeed would be sucked right into it. The people, our young men and women in this country are going to be sent overseas, and it is going to be horrific. And on top of that, it won't be like any war we have ever seen ever in the history of the world, because nuclear is absolutely terrifying. It would destroy the world.
It's going to last an hour.
Yeah.
It would be gone.
Yeah. No, it's very scary. And, people gave him you remember before when he was running in 2016, they were like, we can't give this guy the nuclear codes.
I agree with that, though. Even now to this point.
He was the only person, Charlamagne, not to get us into a new war. He was the one who got us the Abraham Accords, peace agreements that people said were impossible in the Middle East. So why are you concerned about Donald Trump with the nuclear codes?
Did you see what he did January 6th?
What did he
It's
do?
not
He got a
even
little
just
bit
January
upset.
What did he do on
He got a little bit
January 6th?
upset and used his words,
What words did he say, though?
the words that you said earlier.
Peacefully and patriotically make your voices
And
heard.
then what happened after that?
So how were his
You-
words
I just-
actually
I just-
contributing to that?
Because I think that for me, him being able to just push a button, hypothetically speaking, it's a little bit scary because we've seen he gets a little bit erratic when he wants to.
Well, nothing happened for 4 years when he was in the White House. And in fact, we had a peaceful world. We had a stable world. We had world leaders who were coming to the table to talk about issues like Kim Jong-un of North Korea, by the way. Obama, when he left the White House, told my father-in-law, he said, the biggest problem you're going to have is North Korea. It is going to be your biggest challenge. It's going to be the hardest thing you're going to have to deal with. And so Donald Trump said, all right, I'm going to try to see what we can do here, because we want to have a denuclearized Korean Peninsula. We do not want North Korea with a nuclear weapon. That is detrimental. I mean, talk about nuclear war. Can you imagine? Talk about a loose cannon, Kim Jong-un, really? And so he started trying to make contact with him, and he was the first president to walk across the DMZ and shake hands with the leader of North Korea to have conversations about getting rid of a possible nuclear weapon with North Korea. That is great for the world. The world leaders did not even try it with Donald Trump because they knew he meant business. When he drew a line in the sand, he meant it. And the proof is in the pudding. So, you can say, oh, well, we're worried about this. You had 4 years. You had no new wars. You had peace agreements instead of wars breaking out in the Middle East. Look at it right now. It is a hornet's nest, and it is very scary. The trajectory from here to what could happen if you don't have the right leadership in the
But
White
it wasn't a
House.
peaceful.
She's absolutely correct. The fact that he had a conversation with Kim Jong Un. I've watched a few things on Kim Jong Un. I'm not saying that he's a great guy, but what I can say is that I don't think he wants, or at the time, I don't think he wanted war, right? And the one thing I'm worried about, this is one thing I do worry about, is the fact that Trump had to prove to Americans so much of how soft he is and how nice he is, and how much he doesn't want war and violence and all that. I think that goes against him. And the reason why I say that is because there's there's other people that watch him. I mean, if I could watch him here in Canada, that means there's other people in other countries that could watch him, other world leaders, people that actually do want to do negative to America, and other parts of the world, of course. And them watching him, I mean, they might just call his bluff, right? I mean, they might just start, you know, because I've been in places where, you're the toughest guy in the place. Let's just say you're the toughest guy there, and then all of a sudden there are people that are going to test you. There are people that are going to push your buttons. There are people that are going to be like, okay, well, if you want to say that, all right, let's see you do that then. Let me see you do that, right? Um, so I think this time around for Donald Trump, it's going to be a very dangerous situation when it comes down to other countries, especially since right now certain countries have put their foothold on the world in such a way where, um, for Donald Trump to remove that foot, it might have to be removed with force. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. And not just that, but he also has individuals in his country that have power that want to remove him from his position and don't like him. So he's going to have people outside of the country after him and people inside of his own country after him. They tried to kill him already twice. So obviously there's something that he's doing that a lot of these people don't like. Anyway, all right, so I'm going to end this video here, guys, because honestly, it's getting long. And right now, I was somewhere around 47 minutes or something like that. So this is going to end here. If you'd like to see that video in its entirety, please feel free to select the link. It's going to be in the description. And also, do some research. Don't just listen to what I say. Just do some research and look it up. I mean, we did a little bit of research today together, and you were able to see some of the discrepancies and some of the things that were said were incorrect when it came down to some of the things Charlamagne said. But you know, do some research. Don't be afraid to do research. Look into it. Look a little deeper. Look at both sides. Get the right information, then make a decision. But anyway, I'm out.